news, everyone! We have another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program here. And when we left things off, I said something about doing a bunch of satellite quests and things like that that would be quite dull. And as a result, we actually end up with some extra money in the bank. In fact, I was very concerned. So we have tons of science, right? And we need 1.7 million to be able to upgrade the R&D. Because right now, we have researched everything we possibly can in the Research and Development Lab. Without upgrading it. We've got some extra science, but we can't spend it until we upgrade the lab. And just by doing those science contracts, the satellite contracts, I was able to get some extra of the science. And in particular, I have one more mission available here. Also, really cool bonus. This guy here, which just came up, first of all, gave me the advance of 70,000. But it's a grand tour of the inner planets, which is, well, that's pretty damn similar to what we've already got. This was inner planets and moons. This is just inner planets. It's not worth as much, but we're going to do something like this very, very soon. So, perfect. Both of them do require me to come home. But we've got this quest here. Build an orbital station in solar orbit, which we have 28 years to do this sort of thing. But more importantly, it'll give us an advance of $300,000. And that means we have enough money to upgrade our research lab. Bam! Look at that. And we still have a little over $250,000 left over to actually build a spaceship using the extra science we're about to unlock. So what I want to do for sure is I want to grab Advanced Science Tech, because this is the thing that gives us the Drill-O-Matic Junior Mining Excavator, so we can actually collect ore, which we've had quests for a long time. I don't know if like the carbonite thing like unlocked the ability to get that quest, even if we can get actual ore. Maybe the carbonite would have satisfied it. I don't know, whatever. In any case, we can unlock that now. Now we have just under 1,000, so we can't get anything on the next level, which is too bad, because that's the narrowband scanner for some, for ore scanning, actually. But I think we already have something for, like, fuzzy resource? Like this one here, the survey scanner, gives natural resources. So I don't know, like, what the difference between the two. The other one just shows ore. This one shows fuzzy resource. Maybe it's less specific? That could be. So, anyway, in terms of what else to get, I'm not sure. We could go and get the very heavy rocketry. Will give us the 3.75-meter engines that we may want to use to lift some particularly potent things into space. In particular, that UKS training academy, which is super valuable and would be a wonderful addition to our space base. Still, what I think I'm going to do is focus on things that might help on the most immediate mission, which I think is going to be to revisit Eve and Moho and Gilly. 4K rechargeable battery is really good. I can't remember. I think these are these 3.75 meters? Or they might be 2.5 meter batteries. I think they're 2.5 meter batteries, which is pretty good. It's not critical. These are just a couple extra probe cores. Give MechJeb the ability to do rendezvous and docking, which, I mean, I like doing that. I find it pretty simple. Sometimes it takes me long to do the rendezvous, but actually executing it and doing the docking I'm fine with. Ion propulsion is interesting. Ion propulsion is even more fuel efficient than nuclear propulsion. So last time we went to Eve, we didn't have nuclear propulsion, which is one of the reasons we couldn't do Eve and Moho and Gilly and all those things. We just didn't have the Delta V. With nuclear propulsion, we should be able to have that because it's super duper effective. It doesn't even need oxidizer. So first of all, your tank, instead of being liquid fuel and oxidizer, can just be liquid fuel, which is nice. Plus, the ISP is huge. It's like 3 times the amount. Well, 2 times the amount, 2 and a bit, of some of the more efficient engines that we had before. So we're going to get... from one fuel tank, we're going to get maybe like 4 to 5 times as much Delta V using the atomic rocket motor. Its actual thrust is pretty low, so it'll be long burns, but they'll be very efficient burns, which will be fine. Now, the ion engines, which were where? I just had them. Ion propulsion, right over here, are even more efficient. You can see here the specific impulse is 4,200. It is blah times more efficient than the nuclear engine. I guess a little over 5 times more efficient than the nuclear engine. It does need a lot of electric charge, which the nuclear engine doesn't need, and some xenon gas. So it uses a different type of fuel, but... and I think the xenon gas, I don't know, might be more expensive than the liquid fuel, but of course the weight is the concern. I think, you know, internally it's just, this is all represented by weight. So you get a lot more thrust for your buck. The problem is the electric propulsion systems are very, very, very weak sauce. This one here has a max thrust of 2 kilonewtons as opposed to the nuclear propulsion, which has a max thrust of 60 kilonewtons. So between the energy requirements and the fact that it's such a weak thrust, it is not practical to use these to move big ships around, wherever they are. Over here. This doesn't look like ion propulsion. It's not practical to use it for big ships because you're going to need so many of these engines to make it so that your burns aren't like, this burn will take 12 days. Also, and if you need that many, you're also going to have to pack a million solar panels, and it just gets very awkward and very expensive. So, but it is really good for little probes. So that might be nice to unlock. Maybe we don't need it yet. Although, hold on, we may unlock it. So I don't need those. It doesn't give us extra science. That's automation. It doesn't help us right now. There's the batteries. We don't need that yet. Advanced motors. This does get us some pretty badass rovers, which for a Minmus base we're definitely going to want. We're not doing the Minmus base now, though. And I think if we're going to be visiting Eve and Moho and Gilly, we're going to get a crap ton of science. Now, Eve, now we haven't done any Gilly flyby. Eve we have done a flyby of before. But, hold on, we're going to do some cool stuff there. So we should get plenty of science to unlock this for when it's time for a Minmus base. So that should be okay. Aerodynamics, I think we can live without for now. Hypersonic flight, these will be awesome, especially when we get over here. These will be really great when we decide to do our sort of space plane that can go to space in one go and ferry people over to our orbital base. It will be really nice. Docking port senior, I don't think we critically need. Better procedural fairings, that might be worthwhile. The electromagnetic grab things we can live without, and this is a 3.75 meter fuel tank. So these are all 550, so we can only get one. So I don't think we're unlocking the 3.75 meter pair. Could unlock one versus the other, but that's all right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go ahead and unlock the ion propulsion because we might be able to do some cool stuff with that. And let's go ahead and start building a mission. So I think the rest of the video here is mostly going to be building the ship that we're going to use to do the Eve, Gilly, Moho flyby. And so if you're not interested in all the construction, that's fine. Stay tuned for the next video. But we do have some extra things. We even have a mission here to orbit Eve, which is really interesting. We've got that, and we've got a mission to do some science around Eve. Now, this is fine because we can do this as a flyby. We just have to make sure to have the experiments available. Although multispectral analysis data, That's like a satellite scan. That's a biome scan. Now, we could just technically, we could just turn it on as we do a flyby, get 1 tick worth of data, and then transmit it to complete the quest. But wouldn't it be better if we actually got, a real scan here? Plus, then we can transmit it for some extra science. And if we already need to orbit Eve, what I'm thinking of is as we do the flyby, I think I want to detach a probe. Now, that probe will have to go and burn retrograde to actually orbit Eve as opposed to doing a flyby. We could do some aerobraking maneuvers, but I think that's... I'm scared of that. I don't want to do that. So we're not going to do that. But yeah, so that's my plan, is we're going to detach a probe as we fly by Eve. And in fact, we could bring a trio of probes. Do the same thing in front of Eve, Gilly, and Moho. Drop off a probe that goes in orbit and gives us a surface scan of all 3 of them. They can even lie dormant until we get a quest to do it for some extra reward. So that's a possibility. So yeah, so let's go ahead and design it. It is going to be in many ways very similar to our last ship. I'm going to rebuild it from scratch though. Where am I? I might want to actually start with what I had before, just because the life support, the science will all be fine. What was it called? Is it the Calmarius Cruiser Mark 1? I think that's what it was. Which, we're not going to have the money for this. Well, we might if we can end up with a lighter top stage and need less delta V from down below. I don't know how much this is actually costing us, though. I don't think we're going to save that much, and we're still going to need some of this. Shoot, we need a little bit of extra cash. We got to complete some other side quests. Cancel. Let me just... New, and don't save. Damn. And I don't think we're going to be able to afford the Minmus outpost. We might conceivably. I mean, we could just do the plant flag on Minmus. We could do the biome scan of Minmus. We could do that really cheaply. Stability assist. The hex has prograde. Yeah, I mean, we're going to use the other thing too, but it makes sense. Let's tell you what. Let's use the octo over here, which doesn't have a reaction wheel, but at least then, you know, this one is supposed to have the different SAS modes. So when I use Smart ASS, it doesn't feel quite as silly. We're going to do that. Then, I guess we're going to search for what needs batteries. Hang on. Let's put in batteries first. And we have to use this one because of the size. So let's give it 400K battery unit plus whatever's in the base thing, which is fine. And then the ion... Xenon is what we'll search for, because ION, a lot of the descriptions have ION in it. So we've got adjacent container. So there's a bunch of different ones. What's the size on that? That's that. Procedural tank was probably the easiest thing for us to use. So we've got this as well. And then the side ones, the radial tanks, which are kind of cute. It's out of curiosity, if we just use this base one, and then threw that on there, 7,000 delta V. Now, obviously, you have to get it in space first. And thrust-to-weight ratio is pathetic. And this is a $13,000 piece of technology. Oh, ion engines are insanely expensive. Okay, let's not do that. Let's sort by size. Let's grab an Oscar B fuel tank and an Spark engine. I was going to say Ant, but that's different. Now we have something that's $2,500 and still has 2,000 delta V. Which is going to be more than enough to get the Minmus and slap yourself into orbit. We will lose a little bit of that once we get on some solar panels. And actually, since we're not using ion engines, really not worried about that. And really, the ion engines mostly just need consistent power. So we'll throw a couple of solar panels on there, which will be more than enough. Can I search for Biome, or should I go multispectral? No, either way it works. Multispectral sensor. Tell you what, we'll slap it on top. Try to center it. Looks alright. And then we will need an antenna as well. Which I don't know, put over here. It's basically massless, so that shouldn't screw up our flight profile too much. Oh wait, I don't remember. The Octo doesn't have the probe core. I think I talked about the probe core and I was like, oh wait, I gotta put on a battery. Or sorry, it's got a probe core. It doesn't have... Yeah, it's got SAS, but it doesn't have reaction wheels. That's actually the word I'm looking for. We've run into that problem before. Small inline reaction wheel. Now it has a crazy reaction wheel. So 1,500 delta V. Again, this should be plenty to leave Kerbal, get to Minmus, and then get into a nice orbit of Minmus. So that should be okay. Decoupler, we want the tiny one. Is this not sorted by size? It is. There it is. Tiny decoupler. Actually, why don't I go ahead and filter by size 0. Actually, cancel that. Let's find the procedural fuel tank. There we go. Because I just want a type. No, not liquid. Well, yeah. Because you can change your type. Yeah, you're mixed. Good. And then I bring down the diameter. Whoa. Really? That's how you skip? There you go. To that size. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, but then we don't have good engines. All the tiny engines are for outside of the atmosphere, right? Unless we want to use some carbonite or some jet engines, which we're not going to do. What about these little radio ones? Actually, they've got most of their power inside the atmosphere, too. Is that a thing that we can consider? What about the thuds? 275 to 305, so basically fine in the atmosphere. A lot more thrust to weight, obviously, so it becomes mostly a question of how much thrust to weight do we need. If we just had a trio of these, just out of curiosity, what would that look like? 400 thrust to weight, not enough delta V. Holy crap. And actually, what's the, oh, this one's got actually perfectly fine specific impulse at 270. Need to shrink this just because the thrust to weight's no good. There we go. At this point, it's perfectly fine. Just needs a one extra little stage. Now, we've got radial fuel tanks. That's monopropellant. Drop tanks. Now, can these be dropped or they need separatrons? I think they need separatrons. They must. Or decouplers is what I'm actually trying to say. This is a very different design. I'm sort of just experimenting. This is onion staging, not asparagus staging. Put you above there. Now the weight's too much, though. But throw some little twitch engines on the outside of this thing. Have them all light at once. No, that's not gonna be enough. Well, these are all pretty dumb, obviously. Oh! Hang on. Might have not been staged properly. No, I don't think any of this is gonna work the way that I'm just doofing around with. I was just curious. Okay, sorry to waste your time here. We're gonna go with a more normal thing. The 400 over here, and actually can probably just more or less single stage it. Let's go ahead and get a let's get this fairing system because it's quite nice, and then we got to grab the conic fairing in twin symmetry, and there we are, like that and like that, and that's probably not going to be enough. It's getting there, though. It doesn't need much. Just double up on this. Actually, I probably should have just used the procedural tank after all. It's now 4,400, and lots of thrust to weight left. $5,500, and still lots of thrust to weight. So yeah, basically just one giant stage down here. There we go. About 6,000 delta V. More than enough to get into a Minmus orbit. I'm 100% sure. Well, 99% sure. Well, we probably won't kill anyone on the ground. Well, let's not go so far as to say that. Let's drop some fins in here for stability. So we got antennas, we got solar panels, we got batteries. Antenna, solar panels, we got the biome scanner. And what kind of price are we now ending up with this little doohickey? Yeah, under 20 grand. It'll definitely pay for itself. I don't remember how much we were getting from the Biome mission, but it should be okay. Sat, Minmus, Biome. There we go. Now, one interesting idea, though, is if we did pack some extra delta V into this, we could launch this around Kerbal orbit and do a biome scan, but we don't actually have a mission for it. I was going to say, do a biome scan of Minmus, or of Kerbal. We'd have to go polar, and then launch from polar into Minmus. Yeah, it's really not particularly efficient. This is going to be fine. 20 grand to get a biome scan of Minmus. Do we want to do any extra science while we're there? Do we want to do altimetry? Because that's something else to consider, actually. Obviously, that's going to change our weight profile. Altimetry. He wants to be at 750. Is this the high res? Higher resolution, it says. It doesn't actually tell you in the side panel what it is, which is kind of annoying. Now, it wants to be at 750, but it can be lower. which is important because the multispectral scan wants to be... Oh, max is 500. Best is 250. Okay, 250 is going to be fine. So we've got to get into a 200. Oh, this is gargantuan, though. Oh, well, we can still get a fairing around it. We lost a little bit of delta V, but not much. I think this is still probably okay. We'd have about 2,000 delta V to get from Kerbin to Minmus and orbit it. I might feel a little bit more comfortable with a wee bit more. So with that being said, I'm going to break this into 2 bits. Break this down over here. We're going to add in a Terrier engine, because by the time this fires, we'll be into space. Decoupler, we want this one. And then that. And there we go. Just by doing that, we added a ton more delta V, because we were hauling around a lot of empty fuel tanks into space. So at this point, we'll have 2,500 delta V with the bottom bit, which is going to be more than enough to actually pop us into a suborbital path, which means we'll get good efficiency out of Terrier. The Terrier will push us to Minmus, and then we'll have tons and tons of delta V left over here. So we added a fair amount of cost. Well, part of it is the scanner, which at some point we'll probably get a quest for it. I'll probably won't activate the scanner. I'll just leave it there, and at some point we'll get a mission to do a high-res altimetry scan of Minmus. Probably. I don't know. It's probably a good idea to invest in building it now rather than put another satellite later. I mean, it's a little tricky because what we want is we want the money so that we can do our Eve mission. So that we can get like $1.5 million in rewards. I wonder if I can plan a smaller mission. I mean, I was planning on sending another manned mission, but there's no reason for that. They could just be a probe, which is an idea. Anyway, for now, we're going to go full throttle, SAS turn on, and go. And actually, let's go ahead and be lazy here. We're going to set a 100-kilometer orbit, polar, and limit our acceleration to 2 Gs, and engage the autopilot. There we go. Lovely. Thank you. I mean, really what you do is ideally you can launch when the KSC is at the right place to be directly underneath the orbital inclination of Minmus, and you launch at the right inclination relative, but it's really difficult to do. Now, one thing we could start planning, our Kerbal alarm clock actually, is add a new alarm for the proper transfer window to go from Kerbin to Eve. So the next one of those is in a year. Wow. Almost 2 years. Well, a year and a half, because I think a year on Kerbin is like 400 days, 450 days. It's one of those types of things. So yeah, we'll either want to fast forward a lot or fill the time with other missions. But that is the next transfer window. Now that's with one mode. There's another mode to calculate it. Right, using the model instead. Kerbin to Eve. They both more or less agree. So somewhere around here is going to be the right time to launch, and it's going to be good enough. I mean, there's a few days back and forward. There might be a slight time saving and delta V saving, but it's given the fact that there's going to be a bigger margin of error just from the fact that I screw up some of my maneuvers, means that's not particularly important. Okay. How's my staging? I didn't actually verify that. No, that's going to be fine, and then that goes, and no parachutes because I don't actually have a real chute installed properly or something. Actually, because when you want to put parachutes on here to save money, and money is a concern, so really should do it, right? If you want to be able to recover these bits, you've got to be able to set the parachute settings to trigger like slightly differently. That way it works with your recovery options and different things like that. And with the real chutes right now, I have like literally no way to instruct the parachutes at what altitude and whatever they're supposed to open. So I think I'm gonna have to uninstall real chutes, or I don't know, check a manual. Maybe there's something that I've missed in a configuration. But I can't tell the chutes to open only at a certain air pressure or a certain altitude or anything like that, which is weird. So there's got to be a way to do it. It's not like a thing over here, is there? So anyway, that's why I don't have the extra parachute to recover. Yeah, I don't see I don't see a real shoot option there. Oh, I guess this is real. No, that's Logistics Master. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, that's from the UKS mod. UKS does a thing where you can automate the transfer of resources from, say, like the ground to an orbital station. If one of the two has a, I don't remember what it's called, it might be like a logistics management system or something like that. Basically, you have a little drone bay, is the way it works, and you can tell them, hey, transfer, like if you've got a station on the ground on, say, Minmus that mines ore and turns into fuel, and then you want to transfer the fuel up to your orbital space station, rather than build ships and then manually fly back and forth all these annoying sort of missions, you can have this little sort of drone system take care of that for you. And it does charge you, like, you need to have fuel to run the drones and everything like that, so you're not getting it for free, you're just saving yourself the step. And you've got to lug this logistics module, which is pretty heavy and everything, into space in the first place. But then it's got a much more convenient way to transfer some fuel back and forth from time to time, which I like a lot, so I think that's what that button is for. We may not actually have enough solar powerage to run everything at once, but we're only going to run one of the two, so it's probably okay. And if we're not actually controlling this, then the power situation doesn't matter. So we might be cheating a little bit. I don't know. May have wanted to stop some more solar panels on here. Still, it's going to be okay. So one thing that's going to be different here is when we plan our approach to Minmus, is we're actually going to want to approach it in a polar direction, which is not usually the way you plan these things. I have the Ascent mod guidance set to be a relatively aggressive path. So it's actually not doing... Oh, it actually even overshot there, probably because of FAR. It's not doing the most efficient ascent possible. I have it set for maximum safety. When I do my own manual ascents, I can actually get here with a more efficient path that saves us a little bit more delta V, because we sort of just need less effort to circularize. This isn't bad, don't get me wrong, but I've erred on the side of caution rather than efficiency. Because I'm like, well, I mean, if I'm automating things... Why is this solar panel not facing the right way? It's blocked by fuel tank. Okay, that's kind of legit, I guess. Still, I mean, we're not hurting for power right now. It's worth noting the Terrier does not generate power, it doesn't have an alternator, so all the power is coming from there, but that's enough to run the probe core and our reaction wheels right now. I'm not stupid, right? I haven't actually... No, I don't have a satellite where I'm in this. Right, okay. Like, I didn't already have one there with anything. No. Let's just finish off the maneuver to circularize. And what the hell? Let's use the maneuver planner again. We've done this a million times, right? Go to Minmus. So we set a target, and normally you would target right around here. You would just do a prograde burn, yada, yada, yada. We've done it a million times. So let's just use the home and transfer to create the node. It's exactly the same node we'd create. Well, right now, it would... Oh my god, it's going to hit the moon. Okay, well, there you go. So, what we're going to do, same as if we were doing it ourselves. I mean, again, either way, we'd be planning this maneuver. I'm like, we're going to smack off the moon. Yeah, maybe we can plot a gravity assist off the moon to get us to Minmus, saving a little bit of fuel, but most likely I would just screw things up. So I'm just going to wait for another orbit here. Loop around, then say, hey... Now why don't you create a node? There we go. Same node, classic position, and there we go. So you'll notice it's not actually plotting an intercept here, and the reason is we're not actually on the right inclination for an intercept. So we're going to have to adjust that. Same thing, again, I would do manually. I would sort of do one of these to get it sort of out to this general orbit. Then once that burn happens, then I'll do an inclination change. So I'll do the same thing here. So it's just... Is it fast forwarding right now? Oh yeah, it is. Good. A new scatter, it does look really nice when you're in the atmosphere, but it still does some weird things. Like this. The ability to see through the planet and then get this weird, like, solar thing. On the other hand, it is actually a nice little visual, like, you're trying to figure out, when does the sun show up again? When's the sun going to rise for my solar panels to work? And then you're like, okay, it's there and we're coming over there. That's good. Actually, that's an interesting question because we do have limited electric charge here. We do have the extra battery, which is good. If we only had the probe core, we'd be pretty screwed here. because we wouldn't actually be able to execute this maneuver. So I still have 2,000 delta V in this stage. We have a ridiculous amounts of delta V. It may actually be possible for us to finish our biome scan of Minmus and then go back to the moon. I don't remember if we have a biome scan of the moon. But that is entirely possible. Or maybe after we do our biome scan at 250 kilometers, we might want to raise to 500 kilometers for the other scan. Anywho, just going to do this burn here. Very straightforward. Then once it finishes that, we'll just burn anti-normal to drop our orbit down to here. And again, we'll probably use the MechJeb maneuver planner. Save ourselves a little bit of effort. Shorten the video by an extra 45 seconds of me fiddling with maneuver nodes. This is at full power. Yep. Oh, I always forget this. So I set on ascent, I want to limit the acceleration. Because if the acceleration goes much beyond 2G, that's when you really start to hit those like atmospheric sort of issues. But I got to turn that off. I only want that to be a thing inside the atmosphere. Which I guess I could limit the terminal velocity maybe, but I'm not sure that this will be aware of the FAR stuff. Anywho, why don't you go and just match planes with the target. Now, we could do this burn more efficiently if we waited out here. I don't know, like, it schedules it, I mean, I guess at the ascending node over here. So maybe that is the best place to do it. I don't know. But that's what's going to happen. And then after this maneuver executes, we'll do that. And again, as always, I would just basically burn the anti-normal, which is exactly what's happening. And I'd wait until our line would break and get that little purpley thingy so we know it would work. Just let the computer do it. Excellent. Okay, you can stop that because what we're going to have to do now, and for this, I'm going to wait until we're a little further out. It's less efficient, but it's going to be less wiggly-jiggly. What I want to do is have our orbit come above. Oops, the wrong way. You can see it's not going to take much. Let's have our orbit come above Minmus. I didn't actually complete my turn to normal. There we go. I should derate the engine. This is like happening instantaneously. It's bringing you way down because that's with one tick of shift. That. There we are. So there's only so much I can do with normal. Like I can raise it up, but then after that, the trick will be to burn either prograde or retrograde to arrive at Minmus slightly earlier or later. The other way around. So that when we come in, we're going to be coming right above Minmus. So we're going to be coming in low. So I think actually we're going to want a little bit more pro-normal. This is burning normal here is raising our peri a bit. All right, pretty good. And then I'll just adjust a wee bit more this way. And then once we get there, we'll actually... There we go. Mostly polar. And good enough, and then we'll end up making it exactly the way we want once we arrive. We still have tons of delta V. I think we're good. Okay, we're going to do a time warp here. So let's do a quick save. Time warp to the sphere of influence change. Let me kill the warp completely here for a second. Just make sure the time is right, because sometimes it's not, and then it gets a little wacky. And I'm just going to cross it at times 50 as usual. There we go. So cancel the alarm once it tries to drop at times 50. I don't want it to drop to 0 before crossing the sphere of influence. You can cross it at 50. Just waiting a little bit to make sure it's fully registered, and it is. Excellent. So we want a peri of 250. So again, what I would do is create a maneuver at the peri, or we want an apo of 250. So create a maneuver at the peri, and we'd be burning retrograde here to close the orbit, and then we'd want to wrap it up when the new apo would be around 250. And again, we're just going to save a little bit of time by saying, hey, could you set my apoapsis to 250 kilometers at the next periapsis? Thank you kindly. That's exactly what I want. So it will turn the right way. So we're just saving some time at this point. Which I know I keep saying, but some people are like, you're automating, it's cheating. How hard is this maneuver? It's not. Let's just get her done, man. God invented computers for a reason. So that humans didn't have to do math. So there you go. I think we are going to be a little light on the solar panels, but that's going to be fine. One thing that's nice, though, is with a polar orbit around Minmus, we're going to be eclipsed very, very, very rarely. Especially since Minmus itself is on a wacky inclination, so we're unlikely to have Kerbin in between us and the sun for any amount of time. Okay, so it's 133 meter per second burn, which is easy peasy. In fact, I think we're going to do all of our maneuvers just with this tank. So the extra tank is just overkill, which meant we could have saved all of this weight, actually, and just used the other stage, which we knew. I mean, I knew it was going to be overkill. Better safe than sorry, but by eliminating this, we eliminate a lot of weight, which means the other stage could have been a lot lighter, too. Oh, right, I have my engine derated because I was doing manual maneuvers. Was I? Yeah, I was, right, to adjust my entry into Minmus space. So what's our inclination right now? 86 degrees. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, so now we're going to change the periapsis. And we'll just ask for like 1 under what our apoapsis is. So we'll create this node. It'll happen at the apo. So yeah, we did come in low. It would have been better to come up here for efficiency, but it's fine. Look at that, 20 meter per second burn to change it. It's fine. I mean, again, we could have saved a fair bit of delta V actually doing the burns earlier, but who cares? Clearly I don't. There we go, coming in on the maneuver. Maybe a short burn. If I was doing this manually, I'd definitely have to keep the engine derated. But the computer is able to burn at like a fraction of a percent. Basically the same as derating at first, which is nice. Because it's just programming it directly. You know, 0.01% thrust. There we go. And I will then change the inclination as well to be slightly more polar. So let's call it 89.5 degrees. There we go. A 3.6 meter per second burn. And yeah, that just involves burning normal or anti-normal, depending on what you want to do. In this case, it'd be, assuming this is the ascending node, then we'd be burning normal here at the equator of the planet that we're orbiting. Just a microscopic little burst again. With these little tiny finicky maneuvers, it really does help to have a lot of reaction wheels, because the reaction wheels help the system keep you locked exactly the way you're pointing, in case there's any difference in center of mass, which we do have a little bit of. And you can see here it's just going, but just tiny little burn, potentially even more of a delicate burn than I could manage, even with derating the engine. There we go. So we are now at an inclination of 89.483, basically directly polar, which is fine. The orbit's at the sweet spot, so we can start the biome scan. Some of my earlier missions. Biome scan is operational. It doesn't tell me that I'm at the right altitude. I don't know. Something's got to get reinstalled. Something's gone a little bit funky. Where's Minmus anyway? There it is. So, if we take a look at not that window, I want this window here. And look at the biome scan of Minmus. There we go, 1% registered. Let's do a quick save here. And yeah, our electric charge is keeping up. 2 solar panels is enough for the biome scanner. You can get the electric energy cost info ahead of time, which is nice. I could start the altimetry, but I think I'm going to wait until we get a quest for it. Or we're going in for an actual landing on Minmus, which honestly, we do have to construct that Minmus base at some point. So there we go, percentage, excellent. So it is going to go and register all that. So for faster speeds, we're going to go back to the Space Center. And if we're not controlling a ship, we can fast forward a lot faster. Boom, 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 boom. Come on. You can do it, game. I know I have so many mods. And it's not installed in SSD, which is part of it. Although I'm not sure that I'm hearing my hard drives spin up. So it might just literally be the CPU having to process some stuff that's in RAM. Open you up. Bring you over here. Biome scan of Minmus. So there you go. It only updates so often, but it does calculate all the speed differences. There might be a maximum. There you go, 52. Let's bring it down to times 1,000 here. 65. And that's more science that we can actually ship from Minmus too, which is actually valuable to us right now. I don't know if we can get enough science to unlock another 550 though. Maybe with the altimetry data, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, go back to 10,000. There we go. Goes faster at first because obviously anything you're flying over is going to be unmapped, but on future orbits you might be clipping over areas you've already scanned before. So there we go. We completed that, getting 136,000. That's a lot. 360, that's getting to be in the area that we needed to run that mission. But more importantly, by unlocking another mission means we can accept it. We get the advance right away, and this is convenient. Science data from space around Minmus. Well, it just so happens I know for a fact we have a satellite around there. Again, to complete those science data missions, you don't usually need to send actual science. You can send something that's worth 0, so you can do a temperature scan or whatever. But we actually happen to have real science over here. So we can come here. We can also, well, we could have done that from Earth. But while we're here, we can actually take a peek at what the biome data looks like right now. So let me open just the small map because it'll render faster. So biome of Minmus. You can see there's like a bunch of space that's left. So we might want to keep the biome scanning going. But here we go. We want to analyze data and we want to transmit it. Now, there's a funny behavior in that. So transmitting takes a lot of power. If you fast forward, it doesn't accelerate the rate at which you get your data in real time. But your electric charge does scale with it. So it's really annoying because it'll tell you you run out, you run out. You can change the antenna setting to send partial data. But if you keep running out of power transmitting your data, assuming you've got solar panels that are currently working, just fast forward because basically in sort of Kerbal interface, in Kerbin's point of view, it's effectively slowing down the rate at which it's sending the data while not slowing down the rate of collecting electric charge. So as a result, you're going to be able to send it all in one go, and it's just way less annoying. And that completes another quest for us. Boom. Actually, right over here, we can see what else we got. Oh, we got 2 more. Biological activity. So it's laser ablation and an X-ray diffraction at 3 different sites. It's a lot of money, and there's an advance, but it sounds like a pain in the ass. Same thing here. I don't like these places that are based on location. I mean, it might be an interesting challenge to do some of these at some point, but it just sounds annoying. Orbital station around the moon. That sounds like fun. Good advance as well. Anomalous readings. Interesting. This one I think we want to do. I think this quest is actually encouraging us to... Oh, it's at Kerbal as well. It's encouraging us to find some of the cool artifacts on some of these planets. There's D-Magic over here. I'm going to accept it because it's quite cool. It's not a big reward, and it's going to sit in my quest chain for a while. Depending on where this is, we might just be able to build a plane to do it. If not, what we might want to do is build just a sub-orbital ship that will land in this general area. Or this might be a really good test for some of our space planning stuff. We still don't have the Rapier engines. But it actually might be a really fun little challenge to do at this point. We've got most of the plane bits done. Anyway, for now, we're going to keep this bad boy in orbit around here. It'll get some more of that data. And again, I'm going to wait on the altimetry scan for now until we need it for some reason, or we want some extra science, or we get a quest. So it's just going to lie dormant, and that's okay. Is it like a weird strip on Minmus here? Just a graphic glitch? Okay, that's fine. Quick save. Go back to the Space Center. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode here. We may have enough money to do our Eve mission, but I don't want to, like, do a partial mission. If we're going to go, I want to, like, bring all the goodies that we can possibly bring for this, and especially if we're also going to be making a flyby of Moho, and I don't know what the transfer window from Eve to Moho will be. And so that could add quite a bit of extra time to our trip. Now, last time we ended up with a lot of supplies, but this time... now, it will help if we launch at the proper transfer window to Eve. And the Eve to Moho transfer window won't be as bad because both of them have relatively smaller and faster orbits, and it should work out okay, I think. We do have $500,000 right now. That's pretty good. That is actually very good. Oh, hang on. Let's go. Can we get on here the information as to where we need to go and do those scans on Kerbal? I think it shows up on here. No. It'll show up if we have a ship that can show it, though. There's no waypoint manager on the screen. Can we... Oh, hold on. Waypoint manager. Show up there. And I think with this... What does that do? Oh, icon. I don't even know how this is sorted. If we pin it, it goes to the top. Nope. What does pinning do? Does it do anything at all? Do I even see the pin mission anymore? Oh, I see. The pin is on above. I thought it was at the bottom of the list. Oh, now I understand. Hold on. So if we pin this, it goes to the top. And there it is. Okay. 0 degrees south, 80 degrees west. So yeah, it's not showing up here, but I think if we were in a mission, then it would show up, and we could get the waypoint manager to pop in some stuff for us. There's a way to do it, though. Oh, I guess I could just type it in, too. Because I think we can get it once we're doing it, but... How do we get the coordinates again? Flying over. Am I wrong? Did we not just see 80 degrees somewhere? I feel like I'm going crazy. All right. Let's just move on. So I'm not sure what we're going to do next time, but it'll be something awesome. See you there. Bye-bye.